We're here at Black Butte Trail here in Oregon. Going to do a 9.8 mile hike today. This is going to be a hard one, mainly because of the elevation, not because of the distance. Starting at about 3,000 feet and climbing 3,400 feet up to 6,355. We're doing Black Butte Trail today. We're doing the real Black Butte Trail, the historic trail, the long version. It's also a shorter version you can do where you drive up over halfway and just do 3.8 mile, 1,600 foot elevation. That's a little bit more popular for people that just want to see the lookout area, the peak, without having to do the full hike. However, I am a purist. I like to do the full Monty, the full enchilada. So I am starting at the proper trailhead and doing the what's called the historic Black Butte Trail. 9.8 miles, 3,400 foot elevation gain. Because of that elevation gain, I will classify this as a hard hike. Okay, so there's two ways to approach Black Butte. A note about Black Butte: get up to the peak range. It's not like a standard summit situation. It's actually more of a wide, flat area. It's got some trails on the top, lookout areas. On a clear day, which may be today, you can see 8 mountains off in the distance in every direction. So in theory, the viewpoint from the peak is the payoff of this hike. I enjoy those paths at the end, but I like to enjoy the hike itself. Life is a journey, not a destination. So all that said, there are two ways to approach this hike. One is the more purist version I'm doing right now, the long version. You start at historic Black Butte Trailhead. That's the full Monty, the 9.8, 3,400 foot elevation gain. That's what I'm doing because, hey, why not? I think it'll feel good to do it full version, bag it properly. If you don't want to do that heavy of a hike, you can drive up to the upper trailhead. Cuts it significantly. Goes from 9.8 to 3.8, so you cut out 6 miles. And it goes from 3,400 to 1,600. So you cut out over half the length and over half the elevation gain. If all you're after is kind of seeing the views from the top, or if you don't have much time, that works. I will give a note about the road up to the upper trailhead is a bit sketch. I've done it twice, so I have been up there twice. I made it both times. I have an SUV, but it's very huge potholes and rutted and rocky. So I would not be surprised if the occasional vehicle is damaged on the way up. So factor that in. To me, that was a additional benefit of starting from the bottom here. The bottom is completely safe as far as road conditions. You're not endangering your automobile, your vehicle, to park at the lower trailhead. So that was one of the several reasons. I just wanted to do the full version anyway, because I've never done the full version, but I think sparing my vehicle a rough ride was a added bonus. That said, though, I mean, the upper does get used in full, and so people do drive up there all through the summer every day, and mostly without incident, keeping it real. So it's not like the craziest road you've ever seen. It's not like a 4-wheel drive high clearance trail where you need a lift kit in order to make it. It's not that bad, but elevation gain chart would be 0 to 1,000 is easy. 1,000 to 2,000 is moderate. 2,000 to 3,000 is hard, and 3,000, 4,000 is very hard. So correction, it's actually very hard, not just hard. 3,400 feet is a lot of elevation gain. It's a 9.8 mile hike, so it's all uphill on the way there, all downhill on the way back. Pretty classic. So basically 3,400 spread across 4.9 miles. It's pretty aggressive. But if you're looking for a good leg burner, kind of a good trainer hike, when I get in summer, a lot of my favorite alpine hikes are good 15, 16, 18, 20 miles. You're gaining 3,000 or 4,000 feet. It's a good little warm up for later in the year. I would say in that 15, 16, 18, 20 mile hike, it's actually a little bit more gradual because you're doing the same elevation gain as this hike, but it's spread out. Oftentimes, maybe a few really steep sections and then it moderates. But so if you've got a lot of elevation and a shorter distance, that actually is a much harder hike because that means it's going to be at a higher gradation. So this is going to be a challenge today. Set a low of 42, high of 72. Got here, I don't know, late 7s as far as time. It was probably a little above the low for the day, so it's probably in the mid 40s. But later today, probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'll probably get low 70s. I'll be long gone by then, hopefully. So I'll probably be experiencing 40s, 50s, and mid 60s. Did bring 2 Powerades with me, sugar-free Powerades. I should be okay. I drink a lot of fluid on the way here. It's also part of my strategy is fluid load on the drive and then take fluids with you. You also always have to have that emergency red line in the back of your mind. If you start getting a ways into it and you feel like you just don't have the stuff that day, maybe you have a worse cold than you think you do or whatever, don't be too proud as to not turn around. Listen to your body. It's supposed to be fun. And safe, healthy, happy is the mantra. So if your health isn't handling the hike, then turn around. Just don't charge forward recklessly at all costs. I mean, you don't want to be a quitter, but if you're a wilderness adventurer, being a quitter is probably not in your DNA. We don't have to worry about that. Do what's healthy. Walking through beautiful Deschutes National Forest. I will say compliments to this hike, even though we're going up to 63.55, because of maybe the openness, the orientation of the hike. It actually melts snow-wise much sooner than a lot of other things at that same elevation. So this is typically accessible probably the 3rd or 4th week in May, which is pretty early for this area. I'm doing it now June 7th, and it's been accessible for maybe 2 weeks. So this is one of the highest elevation forest butte mountain hikes you can do early in the season. I will also say, because there's no water sources, no swamps or bogs or rivers or lakes, there are no mosquitoes. At least thus far, knock on wood. And that is not the case in some of the other river lake areas around here. June is kind of the opening of mosquito season. Definitely a feel the burn hike. This is not a casual stroll through the forest hike. This is a leg burner, stair stepper type hike. This is pretty much straight up. I do think this is a beautiful forest, so for me, hiking through Deschutes National Forest is part of the fun. From most people's perspective, the real dividend is the view from the top. Basically, you get a panoramic view in every direction of like 8 mountains. It's pretty special up there. I enjoy the view. I also like to enjoy the hike itself though too. Make the whole experience enjoyable. But yeah, this is just gonna be straight up the entire way. to add insult to injury, if you park at the lower trailhead, you get to hike 3 miles up, about 1,800 feet of the 3,400, and then you get to the upper trailhead. So you get to walk right through the trailhead, the upper section, and you're already exhausted from that first part, and you still have the second part. The second part is the more beautiful part, from the upper trailhead to Black Butte area. It's not one of those summit buttes where it's just a small area. It's a pretty big, wide area, pretty flat. They've got trails around it, a lot of seating, well designed. So it's a type where you can go up there and hang out a bit if you want to, enjoy your reward. It's not the type where it's a crowded summit, you just hang up there for a minute and leave. Those are also anticlimactic to me. You can spend hours climbing a mountain, get up to the top, and it's like a 10 foot by 10 foot area to enjoy the top, and there's only already like 5 people there. And then you got the aspect of that. Well, this is not one of those. This is a huge top area with trails and seating. You should be able to carve out your own little private area up at the top most days. I don't know if that's true, 4th of July weekend on a Sunday, but most of the time you ought to be able to go up there and get some solitude. And we're just continuing to climb uphill the entire way. It's also one of those that's very funny in time management, because as you're climbing, you feel like it's going to take forever. You get up there, and then the way back down flies by, because it's all downhill. And I can tell you this lower half is pretty safe downhill, so if you start jogging, don't really raise your risk profile, as you can see, just basic forest. And finish that little section, Black Butte Trail. Oh my gosh, our first flat respite. So we're doing the historic Black Butte Trail, the long version. 9.8 miles, which is pretty moderate. 3,400 foot elevation gain. That's the piece de resistance. That's the tough part. We're going up 3,400 feet. Since it's an out and back, it's all uphill on the way there, all downhill on the way back. So it's 3,400 feet spread across 4.9 miles. It's a pretty aggressive hike in the hard to very hard range. Would you consider a Butte Summit climbing a mountain? It is in spirit. The technical definition of a butte versus a mountain, technically, you're just climbing a butte, but it's basically the exact same thing. One of the things I do like about this is we're hiking through Deschutes National Forest, very pinerific forest. A lot of ponderosa pines, specifically in this Black Butte area. Amp up the beauty of the area. Oh my gosh, this is a pretty beautiful forest.